She didn't see me when she walked in. That's the part that keeps looping in my head. The quiet way the door opened. The careless toss of her purse. The way she kicked her shoes off into the hallway like she lived alone. She didn't see me because I wasn't supposed to be there. The lights were off. I was standing in the guest room, door cracked just a few inches. Heart pounding so hard it hurt my ribs. I turned off my phone, left my car 2 blocks away. Every step of it had been planned. Not because I wanted to catch her, but because some part of me already knew. She walked down the hallway, still giggling. Giggling. Someone was with her. Deep voice. Confident. Cocky laugh. They were whispering things back and forth that made me want to claw my skin off. The kind of things you only say when you think no one will ever hear them. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Then they passed the guest room. He said, "Which one's yours?" And she said, "The one with the broken lamp." "I'll light a candle." That's when I knew. Knew she'd done this before. Knew this wasn't a mistake. She opened our bedroom door and disappeared inside with him. And I just stood there, surrounded by the quiet, holding my breath like it would stop my heart from shattering. I didn't burst in. I didn't scream. I waited. I waited 47 minutes in that dark hallway, feet numb, fists clenched, while the world I built cracked open on the other side of the wall. Then I walked out the front door. Silently. Calmly. And I left one thing behind. A note. On her pillow. For words. I heard everything. Me? That was 2 days ago. She still hasn't called. And read it. I don't know what's worse, that she did it, or that she didn't even try to lie. 2 days. That's how long she's gone without saying a word. No call. No text. No attempt to find me. I left her with 4 words on a pillow, and she responded with silence, so loud it keeps me up at night. I've been sleeping on my brother's lumpy couch, surrounded by half-packed boxes of his moving mess, staring at the ceiling fan and wondering what exactly she thought when she found the note. Did her stomach drop? Did she freeze, replaying everything in her head, wondering how long I'd been standing there? Or did she just crumple it up and crawl back into the same sheets, next to the same guy whose cologne still lingered on our mattress? Here's what I know. The man she brought home wasn't random. You don't whisper in jokes with someone you just met. You don't call someone Rafe with that kind of casual warmth unless he's been around. You don't joke about his spot in the drawer unless he's been there before. She had a system. I thought the worst thing that could happen was catching her once. But this wasn't once. It was just the first time I saw it. The betrayal had layers. Rituals. Familiarity. It was all so intentional. The morning after I left, I went back. Not into the house. I didn't have it in me. But I parked across the street. Sat there in my car like a private investigator who didn't know what he was looking for. Her car was in the driveway. His wasn't. The blinds in our bedroom were closed. The lights were off. But her bedroom window was cracked. I heard her laughing on the phone. That laughter didn't belong to the woman I married. It belonged to someone else entirely. Someone who wasn't grieving or scrambling to fix things or pacing with guilt. She was just living. Later that day, I checked our shared cloud storage. Not proud of it. But after what I saw, you can't exactly expect me to keep boundaries. There was a recent photo backup. A selfie. In our bathroom. In that black dress. Taken 2 hours before she came home with him. She looked different in it. Not just dressed up, transformed. Hair curled, lips painted red, tattoo on her collarbone exposed. I had forgotten she even had that tattoo. She took it in the mirror where we used to brush our teeth side by side. Where I once traced my fingers across her back when she was too tired to stand. And now that mirror reflected someone I didn't recognize. But the worst part? There was another photo. Same dress. Same lipstick. But not taken by her. It was from behind. Candid. Her sitting at a rooftop bar, wine glass in hand, looking over the edge like she was posing for a movie poster. And the photo was sent to her phone from a contact saved as just R. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the sound of her heels clicking down the hallway. The whispering. The way she said, "I'll light a candle." And that horrible, hollow feeling in my chest when I realized I wasn't angry. I was just forgotten. This wasn't rage. This was grief. But not grief for the end of the relationship. It was grief for the version of me that still believed in her. I didn't eat the next morning. Just sat in the parking lot outside our favorite coffee shop, staring at couples in line. Wondering how many of them would be each other's Rafe in a few months. Wondering how many were lying through their teeth. I know you're probably thinking, why don't I confront her? Why don't I go back and scream and make her admit it? Because I don't want her excuses. I don't want the fake crying, the "I made a mistake," that "I didn't mean for it to happen." I already know the truth. She told me everything she needed to the moment she didn't call. But still, I need to know more. And I've got an idea. I'm not proud of it, but I think it might just destroy the last bit of peace she has left. I sat in that cafe for over 2 hours, nursing a black coffee I never touched, rehearsing conversations that would never happen. Everything felt warped. I kept imagining her walking in, like some twisted scene out of a bad indie movie. She'd sit down across from me, tears in her eyes, and say my name like she still loved me. And maybe for a second, I'd believe it. Maybe I'd even want to. But I wasn't there for closure. I was there for strategy. That's when I made the decision. Not out of vengeance, not out of some desperate need to win, but because I needed clarity. I needed to stop bleeding in the dark and start pulling the pieces together. So I logged into her laptop. She used the same password for everything. The name of a dead cat from her childhood, plus the year we got engaged. I'd never forgotten it. I doubt she ever thought I would. Her browser history told me more than any confrontation ever could. Search results for romantic albums near Lake George. Tabs open to playlists with titles like Weekend Escape Kiss Mark. And, most painfully, an archived chat from 2 weeks ago with someone named Rafe. Ren. It wasn't even hidden. He wasn't a secret. He was integrated. Their messages were filled with that unbearable, infuriating sweetness. Inside jokes. Pet names. Talk about next time and the cabin. One message from her, for nights before I caught them. I wish I could fall asleep next to you just once without having to feel guilty. He responded with a heart emoji and said, he doesn't deserve that space. I do. And she didn't push back. That line hit like a sledgehammer. Not just because of what he said, but because she agreed. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I didn't even cry. I just sat there, reading messages written by the woman I kissed every morning before work as she laid out her plans to erase me. But the thing that made me sit up, the thing that shifted everything, was a detail I almost missed. In one of the messages, Rafe sent her a video, just a couple seconds long. It was a clip of him walking through our kitchen, my kitchen, barefoot, shirtless, carrying one of our mugs. The one I got her for our anniversary. The one with the stupid inside joke only we understood. He pans the camera over to the window, says, "Storm's coming in," and she replies in the chat, "You look good in my light." I must have watched that video 10 times. Not because I needed proof, but because I wanted to memorize how much of my life I had already lost. Then came the worst part. A line at the bottom of the chat. Friday, 6 p.m., he'll be gone. That was me. That was the retreat I was supposed to be on. She scheduled him. And the candle she lit? The one she mentioned as they walked to our bedroom? It was mine. The one I used to light for her when she had migraines. She used everything I gave her to bring someone else into my space. So I made a decision I can't take back. I wrote to Rafe. I created a fake number, downloaded a texting app, and sent one line. She's lying to you. Meet me. No threats. No drama. Just an invitation. I wanted to see his face. I wanted to hear his version. I didn't know what I expected. Maybe a denial. Maybe rage. Maybe silence. But I got a reply within 5 minutes. Who is this? I told him the truth. I'm the man who owns the bed you keep borrowing. The typing bubble appeared, then vanished, then reappeared. For a moment, I thought he'd block me. But he didn't. He asked to meet. Neutral ground. A bar downtown. Said he'd come alone. And that's when I realized something I hadn't considered until that exact moment. What if he doesn't know she's married? What if he thinks I'm the other guy? Or worse, what if he does know and doesn't care? Either way, I was going to find out. And this time, I wasn't leaving a note behind. He showed up 15 minutes late. I was already 2 beers deep, tucked into a corner booth of a dimly lit bar that smelled like old leather and spilled secrets. It wasn't the kind of place you take a date to. It was the kind of place you go to when you don't want to be found. I saw him before he saw me. Medium height, toned build, dark jacket, clean-shaven. Not some monstrous homewrecker or greasy pickup artist. No, he looked normal, calm. The kind of guy who holds the door open, tips well, smiles at strangers. Which somehow made it worse. He scanned the room, clearly unsure what I looked like. I waited until he passed my table, then said, "Rafe." He turned, slowly. His eyes met mine, and for a second, I saw something flash behind them. Hesitation, maybe recognition, maybe guilt. He sat down across from me without a word. I could tell he was trying to read me, sizing me up, wondering if I was dangerous or desperate or both. Honestly, at that point, I didn't even know the answer. I take it you're the husband, he finally said. His voice was low but steady, unapologetic. I nodded. You've been in my house. More than once, I'm guessing. He didn't deny it, just exhaled and leaned back. I didn't know at first, he said. She told me you were separated. Said you were dragging your feet with the paperwork. Said you hadn't lived there in months. My stomach turned. I wanted to believe he was lying. I wanted to grab him by the collar and accuse him of being just another liar like her. But the look in his eyes, he wasn't acting. He really thought I was gone. She lied to both of us, I said, voice tighter than I expected. You thought you were the new guy? I thought I was the only guy. Turns out we were both wrong. He stared at the table for a while, then asked, Why did you message me? I hesitated. Not because I didn't know, but because saying it out loud felt pathetic. But I told him the truth. Because I needed someone else to feel how I feel. I needed someone else to sit in this and realize how deep she's gone. I couldn't keep being the only one who knew. He nodded slowly, almost like he respected that. Then, to my surprise, he pulled out his phone. I'm not here to defend her, he said, unlocking it. You want to see what she told me? The whole trail's here. Texts, voicemails, pictures. And just like that, I found myself scrolling through a timeline I wasn't supposed to see. She told him she was lonely, that I'd become distant, that we hadn't slept in the same bed since last spring. She told him I cheated first, that I worked late every night and stopped touching her, that I checked out emotionally, and she was just trying to feel alive again. It was a whole alternate version of our marriage, one where she was the victim and I was the cold, silent villain in the background. She cried the first night I stayed over, he said, voice low. Said it felt wrong. Said she still loved you, but you didn't love her back. I thought I was helping her heal. I wanted to scream, because I had loved her. I still did. That was the most shameful part of all this. I had bent myself backward trying to make her happy, convinced myself her emotional distance was just stress. Work, hormones, anything but what it really was, the start of an exit plan. I looked up at Rafe, and I saw it click for him. He wasn't the villain either. He was just a placeholder in someone else's story, a prop in her performance of pain. She's not who you think she is, I said quietly. She doesn't cry when she's guilty. She cries when she's cornered. He didn't reply right away. He just finished his drink and sat with it. The bar got louder around us. Someone dropped a glass. A burst of laughter spilled in from the front door. But we just sat there, two men who had both built different futures around the same lie. Then he leaned forward. I'm done with her, he said. You should be too. I nodded, but I didn't say anything. Because deep down, I knew I wasn't. Not yet. Not until she looked me in the eye and saw the version of me that survived her. I stood up to leave, and Rafe said something I didn't expect. She told me once that she hoped you'd never find out. Not because she cared, but because she said it would be inconvenient. That word hit like a gunshot. Inconvenient. I was a speed bump on her road to reinvention. But not anymore. I wasn't going to blow up her life with drama or violence or some petty revenge plot. I was going to do something worse. I was going to hold a mirror up to everything she had built, and I was going to let her destroy herself in front of it. I didn't go home that night. I couldn't. I walked through the city until the wind made my face numb and my legs ached. I wandered aimlessly like I'd been dropped into a place I used to live but didn't recognize anymore. Every traffic light felt like a metaphor. Every storefront reflection looked like someone else wearing my body. I kept thinking about what Rafe said, how she cried in his arms, how she spun a story so precise and convincing. He pitied her. And that word, inconvenient, that was the thread I couldn't stop pulling. All these years, all the moments I thought we were in sync, laughing at the same dumb sitcoms, fighting over where to order takeout, dancing in the kitchen in our socks. All of that could be reduced, in her eyes, to an inconvenience. A phase. A version of her life she wanted to shed like old skin. I found myself outside our house before sunrise. I hadn't meant to go there. But there it was, looming in the pre-dawn fog, like a memory trying to make itself real again. The lights were off, curtains drawn, her car in the driveway. I sat across the street for 20 minutes, watching nothing happen. Then, without thinking, I got out of the car. I wasn't breaking in. Not technically. My name was still on the deed. My key still worked. But every step toward that door felt criminal. like I was entering a place I no longer had permission to belong to. The air inside the house was stale, like it hadn't been lived in, just staged. Furniture was in place, but lifeless. Photos still on the walls, but somehow faded, like they'd aged in the 2 days I was gone. The bedroom door was cracked open. She was asleep. Alone. That surprised me more than it should have. A part of me expected to see him there again, Rafe, shirtless and smug. But there was no one else. Just her, curled into the far side of the bed like she was trying to get away from herself. I stood in the doorway and watched her for a long time. She didn't stir. There was a faint bruise on her collarbone, probably from the night I caught them. A memory printed on skin. The same skin I used to kiss like it was sacred. I almost left. But instead, I did something worse. I walked through every room in that house, one by one. Quietly. Slowly. And I made tiny changes. I turned the bathroom mirror slightly to the left. Unplugged the toaster. Switched the positions of the salt and pepper shakers. Reversed the couch cushions. Removed a single shoe from her closet and put it under the guest room bed. Nothing big. Nothing she'd immediately notice. Just enough to make her doubt her memory. I wanted her to wonder if she was losing track of things. If she was distracted. Forgetful. I wanted her to feel haunted. Not by me, but by herself. I wanted her to live inside the silence I'd been drowning in. And when I left, I didn't close the front door all the way. Just enough so that when the morning breeze picked up, it would swing open on its own. Like a ghost had passed through. I didn't do it out of cruelty. I did it because I knew what she feared most wasn't being caught. It was being watched. She lived her life performing for whoever was paying attention. And I was done being the quiet, applauding audience. By noon, I got the first text from her. "Were you here?" I didn't answer. 2 hours later, another. "I think someone was in the house. Did you take anything?" Still, I said nothing. By that evening, she called me. First once, then again, then 4 more times in a row. I didn't pick up. I wanted her to sit with the same confusion she'd left me in. No context. No warning. Just the feeling that the world had tilted slightly sideways, and nothing was where she left it. Then came the voicemail. She was crying. Not the manipulative, breathy sobs she used to weaponize in arguments, but a different kind of cry. Frustrated. Confused. Maybe even afraid. "Jonah, I know you were here. Please, just can we talk? I don't know what's happening. Things feel weird. I can't sleep. Just call me. Please." I played that message 3 times. Not because I enjoyed it, but because for the first time, she didn't sound in control. She sounded off script. She was starting to unravel. And I hadn't even said a word. But words were coming. Just not yet. Because the next thing I did wasn't a message. It was a package. And once she opened it, everything she'd buried was going to claw its way back to the surface. It took me 3 hours to decide what to put in the package. Not because I lacked options, but because I wanted it to be perfect, not explosive, not dramatic, but surgical. Something small enough to fit in her hands, but heavy enough to rearrange the way she breathed when she opened it. In the end, I chose 5 things. A copy of the receipt for the hotel she took Rafe to. I had pulled it from her email drafts, buried under a folder she thought I never knew existed. It was printed, highlighted, with the timestamp circled in red. That alone would have been enough to start a fire. But I didn't stop there. Next, I included the bracelet. The one I found on the hallway table that night. Not mine. Not hers. His. I'd kept it with me like a splinter under the skin, carried it in my pocket every day since. I wrapped it in tissue paper, folded precisely, like it was some kind of delicate heirloom. Then I added a USB stick. Nothing labeled. Just plain black plastic. On it, the video Rafe had shown me at the bar, him walking through our kitchen like it belonged to him. Her voice in the background, calling him baby. That little slice of casual intimacy captured like a crime scene. Quiet, but undeniable. The 4th item was a Polaroid. Not recent. Not damning. Just us. 2 years ago, lying on the floor in pajamas, pizza box open, laughing at something dumb on TV. Her hair was a mess. My eyes were closed mid-laugh. It was the kind of photo that didn't try to be beautiful and ended up being perfect. I wrote nothing on it. Just slid it in. The last item was the note. 1 line, handwritten, no signature. You can lie to a man, but you can't lie to a house. I sealed the box. No return address. Just her name, handwritten in the same cursive I used to trace in birthday cards. I dropped it off at a local courier, paid extra for same-day delivery, and walked away. Then I waited. 3 hours later, my phone buzzed, not with a call or a message, but with a security alert. Motion detected on the front porch. She was home. I watched through the outdoor camera feed as she picked up the box, confused, maybe even curious. She took it inside, shut the door, and disappeared. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. Then 25. No messages. No missed calls. But then, the lights in the house flickered on. Every room, one by one. Living room. Kitchen. Bedroom. Guest room. Like she was pacing in circles. Like she couldn't sit still. I watched her silhouette move from window to window, pulling curtains shut, locking and unlocking the front door. She was unraveling. I didn't smile. This wasn't about victory. This was about truth. Pure, sharp-edged truth. The kind you can't argue with. The kind that doesn't need to scream. At 11:52 p.m., she called. I let it ring once, then answered. There was a long silence on the other end. I could hear her breathing, slow, shallow, like someone on the verge of hyperventilation. Then she said my name. Not angrily. Not defensively. Just broken. Jonah. I didn't say anything. I didn't know how to stop, she whispered. I didn't mean for it to go that far. Another cliché. A script line. But this time, it didn't sound rehearsed. It sounded like a woman who had rehearsed so many lies she no longer knew which version of herself was real. She kept talking. About how it started as a distraction. About how she told herself it wasn't cheating if she still came home to me. About how she convinced herself I had checked out first, that I was distant, cold, unreachable. She admitted to things I hadn't even discovered yet. Different names. Different places. Different versions of the same betrayal, wearing different cologne. And then she asked the question I was waiting for. What do you want from me? I didn't answer right away. Because truthfully, I didn't know. I didn't want her back. I didn't want revenge. I didn't even want an apology. I wanted her to sit in the silence she created, to feel the weight of all the things she never thought I'd find. So I said the only thing I could. I just wanted you to know I was never blind. I just loved you anyway. Then I hung up. I turned off the phone. I got into bed. And for the first time in weeks, I slept. Not because things were okay, but because they were finally honest. But what I didn't know then, what I couldn't possibly predict, was that she wasn't going to stay quiet. And what came next would force me to face a version of her I never imagined existed. I woke up the next morning to sunlight and silence. My phone was still off. My heart was still heavy, but something had shifted. It wasn't peace, not even close, but it was that strange calm that comes after the crash, when you know there's nothing left to save and nothing left to break. I got up, made coffee, ignored the dozens of missed calls and messages I knew were waiting on the other side of a powered-off screen. I didn't need more words from her. I'd heard enough. And in some twisted way, I believed she'd finally heard me too. But that illusion didn't last long. At 9:06 a.m., someone buzzed the front door of the apartment building. I knew it was her before I even checked the camera. She was standing there, not crying, not shaking, but composed. Dressed carefully. Makeup minimal, like she wanted to look honest. Or fragile. Or both. Her expression wasn't one of guilt. It was something far worse, strategy. I let her up. Not because I wanted to talk, but because I needed to see what version of herself she'd bring with her this time. She didn't speak right away when I opened the door. Just stood there, eyes scanning the apartment like she was surprised I had a life outside of her. She stepped in like someone visiting a crime scene. Hands folded. Back straight. She didn't sit until I did. I didn't sleep last night, she said. I sipped my coffee and said nothing. She looked around the room like she was trying to find her footing. Like she was searching for the story she could still sell me. I read the note again. The one in the package. And she paused, swallowing. I don't know what you want me to say that would make any of this better. You can't, I said simply. That's not the point. She nodded slowly, as if she already knew that. Then she leaned forward. But I think you're seeing this all wrong. That's when I realized why she was really here. Not to confess. Not to repair anything. She came to rewrite history. She started calmly, like a lawyer laying out a case. She talked about how she felt isolated, how the spark had dimmed, how she didn't know how to ask for what she needed. How she tried to tell me, through hints, through silence, through the space she put between us in bed. She even framed the affair as a reaction to emotional starvation. A phrase she must have pulled from some therapist's blog or some late-night Reddit support group. I let her talk. Watched her carefully reconstruct herself into a misunderstood wife. A woman who drifted into someone else's arms not because she wanted to betray me, but because I'd left her no place to land. It was masterful, honestly. The performance, the subtle weaponization of her pain, the way she twisted the knife with a velvet grip, still trying to make me the architect of her decisions. But the thing is, I had already been through the fire, and I wasn't flammable anymore. Do you even remember how it started? I asked. She blinked. You and him. The first message. The first time you let it go too far. The first moment you thought about erasing me. Do you even remember it? She looked down. Her silence answered for her. You don't, I said. Because it wasn't a line you crossed. It was a door you closed. Quietly. Without a sound. While I was still standing on the other side. Her lip trembled, and for a second I thought I'd broken through. But then she straightened again. I just want to move forward, she said. We don't have to stay in this. We don't have to punish each other forever. I laughed. Not out of humor, but disbelief. You've already moved on. You moved on months ago. You just forgot to tell me. And then she said the thing that made everything snap. I can make this really easy for both of us. We don't have to blow this up. We can part like adults. Quietly. No drama. No legal circus. You'll get the house. I'll walk away from it. I just don't want this to get ugly. And there it was. The real reason she came. Control. She wasn't here because she felt broken. She was here to keep the illusion intact, to manage the damage, to keep the cracks from reaching the people she hadn't lied to yet. She wanted order, not closure. But what she didn't realize was that she had already lost control the second she tried to narrate a story that wasn't hers to tell anymore. I'm not going to ruin your life, I said, voice low. I'm going to let you do that on your own. She stared at me like I'd slapped her. You don't have to pretend, she said finally, standing up. Like you're some victim. Like I'm some monster. I looked her dead in the eyes. I don't think you're a monster. I think you're afraid of being ordinary. And the moment love started to feel real, flawed, hard, unglamorous, you went looking for something shinier. She turned to leave. Didn't say goodbye. Just walked out like the room offended her. But here's the thing. She thinks that was the end. She thinks that conversation bought her distance and dignity. But it didn't. Because 2 days later, I got an email. From someone I didn't recognize. And the subject line just said, "You're not the only one she lied to." It took me a few seconds to open the email. The subject line alone, "You're not the only one she lied to," was enough to pull the air out of the room. My first thought was that it was from Rafe again, maybe some final apology or confession. But the name didn't match. It was from someone named Isla. I opened it. The message was short, almost cold. I was her friend. Or I thought I was. But she's been using people for a long time, not just you. I figured you should know. If you ever want the full picture, I have it. There was an attachment. One folder. Dozens of screenshots. DMs, emails, voice memos. Things that spanned years. Things I didn't even want to believe. Stories she told others about me that never happened. Lies she told new friends to gain sympathy. Half relationships she started and then ghosted when the shine wore off. Isla wasn't being vindictive. She was just tired of being manipulated. We exchanged a few messages. She told me how they'd met at a photography workshop years ago, how my ex-wife, I should say now, had a way of making people feel like they were the only ones that mattered. Until they didn't. I won't lie, that final puzzle piece broke me for a while. Because it made one thing painfully clear, it wasn't me. It was never me. Her betrayal wasn't born out of something I failed to give. It was born from a hunger in her she never tried to understand. A hunger that turned love into a spotlight and people into mirrors. But after that realization came relief. For the first time in months, I wasn't trying to fix something. I wasn't chasing clarity. I wasn't angry anymore, just done. And in the space where all that pain used to live, something else started to bloom. Peace. It was quiet. Subtle. Like waking up in a house that's finally empty of ghosts. The divorce, when it came, was simple. Surprisingly so. She didn't fight. Didn't drag things out. She didn't even show up to the final hearing. Just a digital signature and silence. I sold the house. I gave away most of the furniture, donated her things without ceremony. Burned the rest in a fire pit one night with my brother, drinking whiskey and laughing at how tragic it had once felt to let go of a chair we bought at IKEA together. And then I started over. I moved to a smaller place. Quiet neighborhood. No shared history. I started reading again. Went back to running. Got a dog. Something I'd wanted for years. but she always said was too much responsibility. His name's Marvin. He snores like a grown man and follows me from room to room like I'm the center of his universe. And honestly, that's enough love for now. And the best part? I met someone. Not in the dramatic, rom-com way. No fireworks. No instant soulmate energy. Just a kind person. Someone who listens. Who asks real questions. Who doesn't play games with silence. We're taking it slow. She knows my story, most of it. She hasn't run. That's enough for me. Looking back now, I don't regret any of it. Not the heartbreak. Not the unraveling. Not even the nights I spent in the dark, doubting my own worth. Because those nights taught me how to build a life that doesn't need performance or permission. A life that feels mine. So to anyone out there stuck in the middle of betrayal, or silence, or confusion, I promise, there's a door out of it. It doesn't slam open. It doesn't come with answers. But it's there. And on the other side, there's space. And in that space, you get to rebuild. Not as who they told you to be, but as someone who knows they deserved better all along.